Okay, welcome me Duole listeners. Stuart Anderson here to introduce our episode 10. Just a short recap and introduction to the podcast. We interview Jay Burke, race director of Point to Point. He gets in how the race started, the culture behind the race, why it sells out every year, and some tips and tricks to make Point to Point a success if you're trying to race it or even sign up for it. So we're grateful for Jay, thankful for the time he spends with us, and super excited to share Point to Point with everybody and talk to Jay. Grateful for him. The podcast ends with a little introduction. I'm going to tease out something new that Duole is going to reward and recognize year to year. We're calling it the Duole Crown. So listen through the podcast, new recognition for the year. Hopefully it'll make the team members dig a little deeper and have fun to be recognized for accomplishing something incredible. So stay tuned, Duole Crown. We'd like to thank our sponsor for the episode, Deluxe Beauty Lounge. They're a new sponsor of the team this year. We're going to wear their logo on the back of the jersey. Laurie Michael is the team member, which is really cool about most of our sponsors, team members, businesses, which we support and are part of the team. So thank you, Laurie. It's a full-service salon and spa, boutique with 26 different artists. And they're on the corner right by the Chevron on 123rd South and 13th East in Draper, offering hair, nails, skincare, massage, spray tans, that's essential, permanent makeup, lashes, Botox, fillers, all in just one shop. So we're grateful for Deluxe Beauty Lounge. They're also offering some Valentine's Day specials. Guys, listen up. 60-minute massage and facial for $170 or a couples massage, 60 minutes for $170. So kind of a fun Valentine's Day suggestion. And this month especially, Laurie had me talk about this laser teeth whitening. For $199 regularly, it's regularly $199. It'll be $125 until the end of the month. So, teeth whitening out at the Deluxe Beauty Lounge, pretty cool place. Obviously, not rookies out there. They've been in business for over 16 years. So, support them and grateful for them. Thankful for this episode and all those involved. Hopefully, you enjoy it. And Duole Crown. Good luck. All right, bye. All right, welcome everybody, Duole Podcast. This is episode 10. We're so excited this is actually working. People are listening to the podcast and lots of fun feedback, so we're going to keep going. We're going to keep making episodes. Today I'm joined by Spencer Chipping is with me and Jake Cook. So two of our illustrious co-hosts. Welcome back from Maui, Jake.
Whoa. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It was a good 2 weeks.
How's the tan? Is it peeling off, or
it's a little dry. It's a little dry, but trying to keep it as long as I can. So
how are the lungs on Zwift? You recovered yet?
Yeah, coming back to 4,000 feet is a party. So.
And Chip, if you're watching the YouTube content, Chip is actually sporting a very beautiful piece right now. It is the crew neck with the red embroidered Duole logo, available at Packet Pickup. Look at that thing. That is beautiful. Chip, how are you?
I'm wondering where mine is. Jeez, co-host. I don't even have one yet.
You can buy one on your own. It's $30 at Packet Pickup. Hope you can be there. No, I'm just kidding. And then we would also like to welcome Jay Burke. Jay, welcome to the program.
Welcome, Excited Jay. To be here. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
We've got a short bio on Jay here in just a sec. A few announcements. Jake, so grateful for you hooking up Team Camp March 4th through 7th. A lot of dirty details in the GroupMe chat. So if you're not planning on coming, reach out to Jake. He'll add you to that. February 4th, we've got approval to be up at Hangar to do our Packet Pickup. There's going to be so much spandex up there. There's going to be all the POC gear that was ordered. We're going to have opportunity for everyone on the team to pick up a free T-shirt from Hangar 15. They approved that today, which is actually pretty fun that if you show up and grab stuff, they're going to be sponsoring some T-shirts. There's going to be so much stuff, sweatshirts, hats, socks. I mean, Beyond that, big shout out to Morten Pedersen. I know he's listening, and we're grateful for him for being part of the team, and just wish him our very best. We had a nasty crash, if you didn't know, and he's in Indianapolis waiting on some organ transplants. So all our love to Morten and his family, and our prayers and thoughts are with him. So anyway, all the best to Morten. So today, if you didn't know, our podcast is going to focus on the point-to-point race. And I mean, Chip is the driver here. The passion that Chip has for this event is unmatched. And I'm not exaggerating. One of the first things that he ever talked to me about was this experience he has every year at point to point, and his love for how hard it is, how fun it is at the end of the season, the people that are there, and all the experiences that are wrapped up inside point to point. So Jay is the race director, and he's going to give us all the details about how it's run and how it was started. So anyway, I've got a little.
Chip, have we ever had a high five and a hug at the end? I mean, I hug and high five so many people. I feel kind of nasty, but people go up there, they're like, "Hey, dude, you remember?" No, I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Has Jay seen that photo of John Olsen at the finish line?
But I can't wait to show.
Hey, we need to share you this photo of John Olsen. He is
Jaeger's was just as epic last year.
I mean, when you rub, we're going to get into this. We're getting ahead of schedule, but when you rub that PR lotion on and you go through that dust for 10 hours, I mean, you are you look like a different person.
Okay, so if you don't know what it is, let me just give you a quick introduction. I'm just going to read this. Every year, Labor Day weekend, endurance mountain bike riders drop in on some of the best single track Park City has to offer. It's over 400 miles of trail here. It's ripping fast and incredibly diverse. And whether you're someone who rides the trails regularly or you're an out-of-towner, the Park City point-to-point is guaranteed to please. The course is an actual point-to-point ride, and thanks to the plethora, good word, of trails in the area, you'll never be on the same trail twice. 90% of the course is on single track, with a total distance of 75 miles and over, I just threw up in my mouth a little, 12,000 feet of climbing. All while traveling through 2 world-class mountain resorts. It'll challenge your mental prowess, yet it'll have you grinning from ear to ear. Welcome Jay Burke, founder and director of the race. He lives in Park City, is an incredible outdoors athlete himself, having raced mountain bike, cyclocross, enduro, and gravel. He's a ski guide for Ski Utah's Interconnect as well. And Jay's also a touring guide in the backcountry of the Wasatch Mountains. Jay is the epitome of a perfect race director for such an event as Park City Point to Point. Hey, who wrote that last line? Did you write that yourself, Jay?
I don't know. Epitome is not one of my normal words. Plethora is.
Plethora and epitome? That was money.
Not epitome.
My favorite Chip story, if you don't mind, I just want to increase the passion here, is often we'll be on these long rides and he's like, if I could just have a nice warm bowl of the miso soup that Point to Point gives me, I can make it through this ride. He's like, that is the most glorious mid-ride, mid-race luxury he ever had. He always talks about it. So.
Is that a staple for the race?
Yeah, but we call that the oasis up there. So that's about mile 62. And if you've ever done the race, which you have, Chip and Spencer both, you get to that point, that last aid station in your series that you're just like, come on, is it all downhill from here? And sadly, it seems like it should be, but it 100% is not. I mean, there is some punishing sections left, and I had the pleasure this summer of finally writing it in context, and I wrote it solo on a hardtail, which I don't know what I was doing. I was thinking I was going to be really fast, and it was until about mile 55, and then I unwound. But I was about a mile from that from that aid station, and I had to have a little sit down back stretch. What am I doing? This is stupid. Plugging food into my mouth that I had to carry along, so I had no miso soup. But
well,
but
Jay,
we always
maybe
have great stuff up there, right? Like, I mean,
I hope hopefully we'll get into
changes
it
all the time. I mean, from watermelon to pineapple to Coke to, I mean, what's your pleasure? They'll pull it out. They'll, I need a beer. Somebody would just be like, there you go.
Yep.
What? Okay.
Hey, well, maybe Chip's got some questions about this year's race, next year's race. I think that's a good place to start.
For sure.
Do you want to start there, Chip?
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Jay, I think the first thing to tee it up and to talk about those listening is registration in general is a race in and of itself. If you do not have autofill set in your computer when you are registering for this race, that sells out in, I would say I've seen it sell out in under 7 minutes.
That's wild.
You will not get an initial spot into the race. And let's just talk about the registration process, Jay.
Yeah, well, and it is going to be a little different this year. So you're right. It has historically sold out pretty quickly. And actually, so the last registration process would have been for 2020. 2019, for whatever reason, slowed way down. And, I don't know, specifically why, but last year, again, I think we were back to 10, 15 minutes it sold out. But you got to be on the ball. You got to be ready. So we've always set it up. We do registration middle of February. It falls on a Wednesday usually. So this year it was going to be the 17th. And I've opted to change it just with COVID still spiking, and I don't want to be in the same position I was last year if the wheels do fall off and we have to do something different. Giving back all that money wasn't what I wanted to be doing. But so what we're going to do is move it to April 7th, which just gives it a little more time. I think we'll hopefully, everyone's hoping and praying that we'll get past the brunt of this thing. So it'll be April 7th at 7 p.m. It'll be open to the public. However, there is a caveat this year because the people that were registered for 2020 will get a first right of refusal this year. So that's going to be, they'll be less available to the general public. I mean, if there is any fallout, which there will be, obviously.
How many will be available, Jay?
I'm not sure. I mean, we were sold out last year, so I'm gonna give everyone probably on March 24th, 25th, give them 48 hours to register. So we'll open it up to everyone that registered in 2020. If we sell 300, then there are going to be 75 available on the 7th.
So how many slots total for this race?
We sell 375. Yeah. And we'll end up. We'll see. I've got it down to a pretty good science. I mean, that puts about 350 toe on the line on the Saturday of the event, and everyone's like, well, why don't you double it and this and that? And I mean, as a marketing guy, I've always really stuck to my guns on that. I mean, there were reasons for it. I mean, number one, I think it would be too many people. It'd just be super clogged up at the beginning. But more than that, I mean, there's a special vibe to this event, and that's part of it is having it be a little bit smaller. I call it a boutique race. So we've just kind of kept that going, and I really believe it's part of what allows it to sell out in a short period of time every year, and it kind of keeps people, they're interested in it. They may not get in one year, they do, or they race it 2-3 years in a row, and then I can't do it again, and then they're back in 2 years, and it's like, what are you doing back here? So I think people, it's like a love hate, I mean, we all say this after a long race, like, I'm never doing that again. And then the next day you're like, man, I think sure, maybe. And a week later, yeah, I'm full in. I'm good. That was so awesome. I was
isn't that a part of being an endurance athlete, is a short memory, inability to remember how awful it was.
Lord.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Jay, one nice thing about the registration process, if you don't get in, Point to Point has allowed the option to purchase another ticket of an entry that can no longer do it. Someone has an injury,
right?
Or can no longer.
We have a transfer.
The transfer process has been awesome. There's been one year I've had to purchase a transfer, just didn't have the autofill set, and that's really cool too.
Yeah, it works really well. And I always tell, so it definitely sells out, but then you have that period. I mean, obviously quite a few months leading up to it. So, I mean, people get married, broken wrists, whatever, so there is a ton of fallout. And I think, gosh, in 2019, I think we had like 60 entries changed hands. So, it's not completely out of the cards that you can't race if you don't get one, you just have to be diligent about it. But it is a nice little feature for sure.
One of the, everyone was devastated that the event was not taking place this year. And so when you launched the virtual, there were some really cool stories that came out of it. If you were following the Facebook page, you were watching everyone's posts about when they do it. For those listening, there was an option to do it in 3 stages as well. And a number of our teammates did it in those stages. And talk about a fun way to enjoy. It may have been the only real enjoyable point to point that I have completed over the course of 3 days. What do you think, Jay,
for sure.
What about the virtual event this year?
It was wildly popular, and I think it will. Well, I'm pretty sure we're going to offer it again. It'll be a little bit different. I think it will just be a 3-day. We won't do a single day. I believe I'll probably do around like a $60 entry fee into it. So everyone that enters will obviously get like a participation kind of finisher prize thing, similar to the point to point. But, the great thing is, the point to point is, I think the cool thing about it and what people really love about it is it's hard, man. I mean, it's really hard, so it's not completely attainable for some folks. I mean, really just being honest, there's a cutoff at 3:00. I mean, we've had people who've tried it multiple times that don't make the cutoff after multiple efforts. So, there are a lot of local riders, maybe a little older, maybe not like wanting, to go that deep into the fitness thing to be able to get it done. And so it gives people that option to ride it. And I think it's pretty cool. So we'll probably do that sometime, have the window of riding be open for like 3 weeks ish leading up to the point to point. And then if you finish, you'll have to come to the finish line to grab your finisher's prize and stuff. And then, the way we did it last year, I don't know if you remember this, but if you rode it backwards, like you got an extra ticket. So if you finished it, you got a ticket for this drawing, so we'll have our sponsors on board. And, we had some great raffle prizes this year from like Scott. We had a set of carbon wheels, and so we did fun things like that. But we'll probably do that again. So if you like ride it on a single speed, it was an extra point. And
Wait,
it was pretty wild.
Did
that
people
is
do that?
insane.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Did you have the unicycle division?
I mean,
a unicycle might be worth 5 tickets.
Jay, talk about the single speed. So that is a division of this event, just to kind of emphasize the grit of some of the racers that come to point to point. The single speed racers are legit.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. I mean, I
These
don't know
guys
why.
climb at
I rode
12,000 feet with single
yeah.
speed?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's no joke.
I had one of those dumb bikes for a while. I sold
gritty.
it. But yeah, I just
gritty.
You know, and that class has ebbed and flowed over the years. I mean, we've had some really great competitors in there, but it is pretty wild to see that. You know, I mean, and you know, along those lines, I mean, we had a guy one year ride it on like a double crown with flat pedals, like tennis shoes on, double crown DH bike, finished. You know, and this was back probably year 6, I would say 5.
Was his name Adam Barker?
Oh, Adam can ride this thing on an e-bike, I don't think. Maybe. I don't know. He might get a little too dirty though. I worry about it. I would worry about it.
That's right.
We'll go more into Adam later, but yeah, this guy finished on it's like a 30+ pound DH bike, and you know, back in the old days of the point to point, I mean, this race was silly. It's gotten easier, but in a different, like, it flows better. The first few years of the event, I'd say the first 3 or 4 years, you know, we had sections where, if you know Aspen Slalom, I'm pointing over towards Deer Valley right now, if you couldn't tell, but Aspen Slalom, we went up Aspen Slalom up at Deer Valley, which, you know, people look back on that and they're just like, that was just so ridiculous. So it was, if you can believe it, I mean, even harder. I think in a different way though, like now, you know, like I think about when I rode it this summer, it was like tempo, you know, pace and go, and you're like in a different, it's just a different kind of hard, you know, where before it was just stupid, like gut punch hard, you know, like really, like, come on. I mean, in the mental kind of elements, I mean, we went up Spiro, like, you know, at mile 50 something, it was angry.
So Jay, what keeps participants or racers coming back? Like what is the name?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing, I always tell people, the biggest thing is trails, quite frankly, you know. And I get it now after doing it, you know, for all these years, I've been going out there marking the trail. I mean, the last thing I want to do is be anywhere near the course. So, you know, I never really had the opportunity to ride it in context like that. So, I mean, that was a very enjoyable day of riding bikes. I mean, there are parts of it that sucked, you know, obviously, but, you know, it's just kind of cool to put your head down and ride 75 miles of single track. You're just like, wow, this is absurd. And it's all right here. And, you know, it's got wicked hard climbing. It's got, you know, 30-minute long descents. It's got a little bit of everything. So, I mean, one of the other things that everyone just raves about with the event is our aid stations, our support stations. We have great volunteers. So, you know, I mean, it's like you get top shelf treatment if you don't have your own support. You know, I mean, you definitely get the love. And up at the Colony, which is where that last aid station is, the Oasis. I mean, you can't get in there, so it's just our team that's there. Same team of people have been doing that for quite a while, you know. So it's always something different, and you know, it's hot. Some years it's super hot, and they've got fans going and misters and, you know, cots, you know, like lay down and have a nap. You might never get up. I wouldn't recommend that, but yeah, so it's, you know, it's that kind of experiential side of it, I think, that and coupled with the trails that you just can't really beat. And I mean, there are numerous other components of the event, but
sure.
To give an idea of that, from I think that when I raced my first time there, and when it's your first time, it's really challenging. It's really tough. And I remember coming through an aid station, putting both feet down, and you can't even throw your leg over the bike to get off it to go get your help. And I didn't have someone supporting me that day. And sure enough, like Jay is mentioning, they came right up, took the bladder out of my Camelback, went and filled it up, sealed it, put it back into my backpack, brought over food to me, filled the bottles on my bike, And I was just like, it was just full service.
You're like, but I wanted to quit.
So I wanted to get out, and then they run kind of like pushing your back up, and there you go. And so the culture that is created by the support there is incredible. The oasis that we are talking about, from soup to Coke to any drink or fruit that you can imagine, and to literally the chair that you can lounge back in. And I just warn anyone to get too comfortable at the Oasis, because it's hard to carry on from there.
That's a beautiful name, the Oasis.
Right.
And through the years, it has. I mean, there have been just some crazy stories up there, like just of that. You know, people laying down, and I mean, trying to get people out of there. We had a lot of people pop between that aid station at Park City and the colony there.
Oh, it's tough.
It is a rough section.
That is a tough section.
Hey, Jake, could we hear, before we move on, could we hear like the thought process behind how it started?
Yeah.
How you decided to launch? Yeah.
Well, I was kind of, when it started, I mean, it was the E100 was a race happening up here, the Endurance 100 as it was called, and it wasn't coordinated very well, let me say. You know, and the course like looped around and looped across itself, and so it was marked with pin flags every year. And as I recall, I think there were 4 sections within the 100, and he would mark all these 4 loops with different colored flags. And I mean, you know how it is when you're like, if you're out on a 50-mile race, you know, you're at 50 miles, you're just seeing cross-eyed, you don't know pink from purple. I mean, and so every year, you know, inevitably people would get lost. And it was just, in my mind, I kept thinking, holy cow, we're getting to the point where we've got to be able to put together 100 miles without crossing, you know. And so the E100 kind of imploded on itself. I, at the time, was doing the midweek series. I was working as a marketing director at Solitude Mountain Resort, and I left there, and it was just kind of this time period where I was like, you know, I think it's just time. Like, and people, there was a demand for it, and that's kind of really where it came from, you know. And that part of writing it and trying to get it all linked together was such a fun period of time, you know, where it was like, yeah, we could do this. And so I mean, I had 100+ miles, I think, originally, and it would have been just ridiculously hard. I mean, it would have been a 14-hour type of race for sure. But it turned out, you know, we couldn't get a date really where we had enough daylight to be able to do 100 miles. So it got all trimmed back, and it ended up falling on Labor Day weekend. You know, it's never come off Labor Day, and 75 miles was the right amount of time. I mean, as you know, I mean, the 3 o'clock cutoff is like literally every year. I mean, right at dark, we have a finisher, you know, and or just maybe even dark. The last, which we call the Red Lantern winner, which is another one of the cool little kind of components of the event. You know, we put a red lantern out there, which is stolen from the Iditarod, by the way. But yeah, you know, I mean, that's where it all came from, you know, and it just has always worked. I mean, the date worked, and you know, back in the old days, there weren't a whole lot of, like, I mean, old days, you know, it's just so 13, this will be year 13. It was just different back. I mean, those early races, like, no one would be out on the trails with us. It was wild, you know. Big change now, though, you know. I mean, especially last year, I was kind of worried even about like being out riding after the date of the point to point and still having so many people out on the trails, because we don't close the trails. I mean, it's all open. Right. We can't. I mean, clearly we couldn't close off 75 miles of trail. So
yeah, there are oftentimes some very surprised walkers that might be in town when they see the barrage of these downhill.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the components that kind of scares me, you know, in the new Park City and the amount of people that are here right now, and being able to continue to host the event without having the kind of bumping into people like that on the trail. But we work hard to let people know what's going on, and we have embedded riders out in front. We have embedded riders in the middle, hopefully, doing some mitigation and sweet talking when they run into that group of hikers that can't get through. But yeah, it's a challenge. That part can be a challenge.
Nice. Jay, with the course that has changed from, year to year, and it continues to get better, anyone listening that has done it in the last 4 years, where it used to finish in the Canyons Resort, and now it finishes that extra downhill going to Kimball Junction and finishing in the Skull Candy parking lot is very challenging. I'll just add this and then ask a question. Whether you are climbing at point to point, it's really hard, and or you are descending at point to point is a race where you are always on. There is no relaxing or like catching your breath at point to point, because you're always on. You're required to always be on, because the second that you're not, it's not a good thing, because it's tough to climb and it's tough to descend. The new addition to the last 10 miles of point to point is very challenging downhill.
Yeah. Is that your question? Am I going to change it?
That is a statement and a question to why you added that last section.
I've gotten earfuls plenty of times, but the truth be known, did you finish at the Canyons?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That in and of itself had a wicked little kick you right in the face.
Let me add to this, Jay.
Kind of climb at the end.
Right there, it used to be you would come to that almost at the finish line, and you could hear the music and the party going on in the canyons, and
you could smell the hamburger.
You would turn right around, and you got about another 1,200 feet of climbing back up before you descend back down. Okay. Now
that was so mean. It was mean. And I think, I mean, honestly, to your, so you're talking about descending Iron Bill, which is a descent at the Utah Olympic Park, UOP.
I love that name, Iron Bill.
Iron Bill. Well, it's because it's full of like iron, the rock is ironish, I guess. I don't know. It's nasty though. And at mile 73, it's rough. I mean, I was cussing myself on my hardtail when I rode it this year, and I like had a goal, and I was trying to get there. I was trying to ride it in 8. I wanted to go sub 8, but and so I just jammed a bunch of food in my mouth right after that, and kind of got to that section. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to descend this fast and just get through it. And it was heinous. So now I'm going, wow, I feel for everybody. But, I mean, again, I think it's like taking a look at the entirety of the course and where it was like in the early days and the hard parts of it. I mean, yes, I mean, I try to make this right. It's got to be hard, and that has always been a part of it. Like, I'll look at something on a reroute and be like, is that a quality descent? And I mean, after Iron Bill, you get to do a really cool mile-long section that's just super butter flow, bermed out. So, there is a little payoff there at the end. So I take that. I mean, if I had everyone at the finish right after Iron Bill, I'd probably get shot at the finish line. But so, yeah, I mean, I'm always, and that kind of goes back to this thing has gotten, it's gotten easier, but easy is relative to, how fast you can now ride it, which, I mean, I don't know which I would take, the lesser of those two evils, but I think being pinned, I think some of the fast guys like a Keegan or an Alex Grant, some people who have won it, and have ridden, like Alex rode it, you know, multiple times in the early days. And, you know, I think racing it, like having someone, you know, like Jeff Kabush or whatever chasing down on you, you know, I couldn't imagine that, you know, and they're just pinning it across there, like full on getting after it. So I think, you know, quite frankly, that sounds harder to me than pushing your bike up a mile section, you know. But yeah, it's fun to put that together, though. It's fun to see it and then have people ride it in context and give you that feedback like you do, though. It's a fun part of it. Kind of keeps me coming back for more.
Right.
Torturing people.
And I think one thing that we've asked on this podcast or talked about is that there are different vibes in different race settings put on by different race directors. Yeah. And whether you go to a road race, this group and the majority of our listeners understand that culture of a road race or a crit compared to cyclocross. And then Point to Point is almost in a league of its own. It is this happy group of people that are so stoked to be there that day to accomplish something so hard. How do you maintain the culture of just this? I think your sponsors have to do with it. I think that the course has to do with it. Some good weather really increases that.
Yeah, and we've had our fair share of bad weather too, you know, but yeah, you know, I think even on those bad weather years, you know, people are still super stoked on the event. You know, I mean, one thing we haven't talked about, and really this is what keeps my fire stoked about the event, and at the end of every year, I mean, you guys could imagine what this thing's like to put on. It kind of like starts to bear down on you, and then you get through the event and you get the euphoria as a race director to be like, wow, that's so cool to be able to provide that to people, you know. But it's like the part that I love the most is it's not like the 50 fastest racers necessarily. I mean, and even the pros, you know, they tend to really love this event, which is, I think, says a lot. But it's kind of the 300 people, you know, behind them that I think are like, wow, I don't know, you know, I mean, am I going to do this? Am I not? You know, what's this going to be like? And so the finish line is always just so fun, you know. It's high fives and hugs, and like, seriously, I mean, I've been hugged by some pretty nastiness, you know, but it's cool. I love it, and I love being there, high-fiving with people. So it's kind of what keeps it going, and in my mind, and just providing that it's a service, you know. And I think that's the way we all look at it too. It's like, just keep it fun. And
that's cool, Jay.
Yeah,
what a great attitude.
Yeah, we do a lot of fun stuff with it. We really do. And I think that I did it things, you know, we haven't even talked about stuff like that, but you know, we've always taken really good care of the riders. That, you know, it's not a cheap event. I mean, it's $200 to enter the event, but you know, I've always made it a point. It's like, I just want to over deliver on that. And so, you know, I take great pride in like not getting too many complaints on, oh my gosh, it's $200 and this sucks.
I'll tell you, if you want to over deliver every year, all you got to do is provide Spence a beanie with a little ball on the top. It's like his most favorite piece of equipment known. He talked about it for weeks when he came home from the race. They gave me a hat.
Oh, you were the hat year.
Gene, that green beanie. So green and orange is always kind of Point to Point's kind of theme colors. One of the years, I think that was 2017 or 19.
Boy, they all run together, man.
It was a green beanie. I was hiking in the backcountry with this beanie on, and I just had, you know how random that is in the backcountry. Someone says to me, like, oh, you're one of those guys with my hat on, right? just to kind of prove that point. But you get like the worst t-shirts at events, Jay. And so I'm just telling you that the cool belts and the cool mugs and the beanies that come with point to
But
point.
That's the other part of it, though. You know, like what I was saying, it's just like trying to do things differently. I've had a strict no t-shirt rule. Like, we do not do t-shirts.
Amen.
Ever. You know, so year 10, I did a t-shirt because that was cool. I mean, it was year 10, and I figured, and it was a cool t-shirt, though. It had an illustration on it, no sponsor logos. But that, you know, that's just kind of the vibe of the point to point that I've tried to kind of keep, is doing things different like that. I mean, you know, we always change up the I Did It award. You know, we try to find cool local brands like, you know, Grip 6, you know, or some local brand that can be a part of the event. Like that Cirque, those beanies, that was a company out of Colorado, not necessarily local, but still a small business that, you know, we could benefit one another. And so that's always a big piece of the event too. You know, I love that. And I mean, we do have great sponsors, and I feel like they're a big part of the event as well.
Jay, do you have a maybe a favorite finishing memory? I mean, you've been a director for a long time. I'm just kind of like pick your brain, and maybe just, is there one that vividly just stands out as like, I remember when this person finished, it was a cool experience?
Well, there have been, you know, so just lots of great stories. I mean, cancer stories. And there was a woman, gosh, we were at the canyons, and I want to say she was 60. But she finished, and like, I mean, I remember that one. She was just elated, and it was really late in the day. I mean, and she was crying a river, you know, it was just all over me, just, and, you know, I mean, it's things like that goes back to, it's more of the common folk, you know, it's really fun.
I got the goosebumps just sharing that little piece.
Yeah, well, and we've had, you know, I mean, a couple of years ago, a gentleman was riding for his dad who had Alzheimer's, which was a really cool, like, he was at the finish line. Yeah, geez, choke you up. But it's fun. You know, it's cool to be able to provide that. You know, the Flynn brothers are not inspiring because they're fast as hell, but it's always, I love watching those guys race together. They're these twins out of Jackson Hole. You guys may know them. They ride on the road a little bit too, but they didn't finish together at the last race. It was one of the first ones where I was like, holy cow, did one of them get hurt? But it's always like right there, glued on to one another, hug it out at the end. I love it. Yeah, it's awesome.
Go ahead, Jake.
No, go ahead, Sue.
No, I don't want to embarrass him.
I was just going to say, you know.
Oh. Stuart, you go.
Sorry.
I want you to embarrass me.
No, I was going to embarrass Chip. I don't know if you know it or not, but he's a type 1 diabetic. And,
very cool.
I mean, for people to
not
get
cool, but very cool that you're
yeah.
I mean, for people to get through a race, they're usually like, oh, well, you know, it was a hard day. It's like, well, for Spence, it's like, it's more than a hard day. It's like he puts his life on the line. It's pretty rad that he does it.
Yeah. Jay, I wouldn't bring it up. The reason why this race is so hard is because the time on the bike, being type 1, blood sugars are hard to manage during that amount of hours. Sure. And so there is a bench about 0.25 miles away from the Oasis. If you're familiar, it goes over the little goalie, and there's a little bench on the side it's just like 0.25 miles away from the Oasis. And I was just like, my blood sugar is so low, and I am out of food. I have got to make it to the Oasis. And I knew where it was, and I made it there, and it was literally like heaven. And
nut roll, Chip.
And normally, I think I had already eaten my infamous nut roll, but super helpful.
That, I mean, I love hearing those stories. You know, I've got I don't bring this up often, but like Jason Hawkins, who's turned into a really good friend of mine. He is. If anyone out there, I'm sure a lot of people know Jason. He's just a phenomenal dude. But he has towed the line every year. He's done every race. And I want to say 3 years, it must have been 18. He announced that he had MS. So he's still been doing the event every year, you know, with MS, and exercise is a huge part of his routine. You know, so, you know, I mean, it's stories like yours, Spencer, and I mean, and, you know, like Jason and all, you know, these others that I've, you know, cancer survivors, and like the people that we've known through the years. I mean, that have passed on, and you know, I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name out of Bountiful. It's escaped me. It's terrible, but was hit by a car beginning of 2020, and you know, he was a huge point-to-point fan. You know, so it's such a great family of people. Yeah, it's good. It's fun. It's just really fun to put on.
Yeah, it really is. Jay, as we're probably gonna double attendance in your event this year from our team.
Well, I hope there's spots.
So do we.
We should probably tell them what like we should give them the one bit of advice that I always give newbies.
Let's go there.
Oh yeah, we got to hear them. Yes,
the greenhorns. You know, everyone always asks, like, what's the thing? I mean, we're just talking about it with you, Spencer. Like, the food, I mean, is really, I think, for any athlete. I mean, you're diabetic, so it just exacerbates it even more. But if you can't figure out the food with the point-to-point, you will not finish. I mean, you just, it's a huge part of it. So figure out your food, number one. But more importantly, everyone laughs about this, and typically roadies. I know I'm talking to a lot of you guys out there that are listening right now. But you know, roadies can't wear a Camelback. You know, I mean, that's just not cool. We do double bottles. You got to do it.
That is a really good roadie voice. I like that.
I love that.
Wait, what is
right on the
Chip
money,
say,
Jay? That was right on the money.
What does Chip say? Baggy short bombers? Is that what it is? Baggy short?
Hey, I am a spandex on the mountain bike. I not only double bottle it, but I have the Camelback and have listened
but
to
you can double bottle as long as you have a Camelback too.
I have a Camelback every year.
Yeah. And you know, I've had pros that have laughed at me, you know, and I've had multiple people are just like, I don't need a Camelback. I'm going to get bottle hand ups. I'm like, I'm telling you, man, you run a Camelback, your life will be just, you will love this. Cause you, like you were saying, you know, I mean, you're on all the time, whether you're climbing, you know, you're inside out and your heart rate's, you know, 190 and you're trying to drink out of a bottle. Or you're going downhill and you're like, I got my wrong hand on the bar, I'm trying to drink. It just doesn't work. And I mean, it implodes people every year. Mostly pros that come in thinking they're just gonna smoke the point-to-point, and they get smoked typically. It's true. It's happened. I've seen pros on IVs because of it. So yeah, it's good fun though. So wear a Camelback. If you're really interested, be there on April 7th for whatever is left of the entries that don't get swooped up by the 2020 riders that will get first ride on these. And you know, hopefully we see you toeing the line in September.
That's awesome, Jay. This has just been so fun talking to you and learning more about the history, and Stu I think has some additional fun insights to the team and with some announcements.
Yeah, we wanted to wrap up, Jay. We thought this would be fitting on this episode. We want to kind of soft launch something new we're going to do and hopefully carry forward on the team. This team kind of prides themselves, if you've listened to other episodes, on being committed to doing the really dumb things. The stuff that would kind of look at, you know, other teams would look at it and be like, only idiots would do something like that. So we're going to raise the stakes. We want to introduce an award, a recognition that will move forward on the website for the team called the Duole Crown. And it is a series of 3 races that includes Crusher, point to point, and Lodija. And they have to be completed in the same calendar year. And in doing so, you kind of prove your worth to suffer, learn all the different aspects of riding, as well as do it in the same year. And I think, Chip, in 2019, you did it and Jaeger did it. So we have 2 who have completed it. But we're going to have an awesome finishers patch if you complete, as well as maybe some other prizes where the team sponsors some cool recognition for you. So,
well, that's pretty rad. That's super cool.
Duole Crown for all you dum-dums out there. Get recognized for something new. So we'll put some details on the website, and hopefully we can get into point to point and kick it off. So anyway,
I'd love to see that. Challenge Adam Barker to that. I do. I just don't think he can do it. I don't think he can do it. I want to see him at the finish of the point to point.
Yeah,
his shaved legs, his dirty shaved legs. Well, that's very cool. Burke, I know Burke and I have noodled a few times on the idea of like a king and queen of Utah, and with the 2 races kind of being similar in a way. I always thought that would be really cool, but I think that's awesome to connect it with Lodija too. So totally different discipline. That's it could be something really, really fun there.
Yeah,
Gonna be fun. Well, hopefully, Chip's already, I guess, reigning champ, right? Spence, I don't know.
Yeah, I did have to mention, I have to add a plug that I did it in 19 and I did it in 20 as well. Both were virtual because point to point was virtual.
That
doesn't
count, Chip.
Crusher,
Come on.
That doesn't count.
Crusher was even harder. It was the lone goat.
Oh,
100
right.
miles, 10,000 feet. Lone goat was what Crusher did this year. I'm okay if it doesn't count, but I'll be there again in 2021.
Crusher's a hard race. I mean, I've never done Lodija. I've always wanted to, but I think they all have their kind of knife twist, Crusher is a tough one. People always say, oh, they're just hard in different ways, like the point to point and the Crusher. But what is your time in the
9? Between 9 and 10 in point to point.
Okay, but what about Lodija?
Same. So 10. I mean, I'm at the 10, just over. I think it was 10:05 in 2020 that we just did it.
And then what about Crusher?
Probably faster than off that. 2 hours ahead of that. 8:30 maybe in the year that was. So we had
2019.
2019.
Yeah. It's interesting how some of these races have times so close together. For many years, Alex Grant, who's won the point to point like 8 times. His time at Leadville every year was like within minutes always of what he would run the point to point in. Dang. It was crazy. And it's 25 miles, point to point is 25 miles less than Leadville. So that gives you an idea of what point to point is.
Too much miso soup.
Yeah. Ooh.
Too much time at the Oasis.
Oh, those guys don't even stop at the Oasis. No. Like, honestly, they don't. They just.
That's the downhill beginning.
Yeah. The downhill that's actually up.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jay. What a great event, man.
Yeah. Hope to see some of your team out there. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, we hope so. And I think this Utah cycle community owes you, debt of gratitude for what you built. It's pretty incredible. Wow. So thank you.
They owe me nothing. I mean, just showing up every year is it's always I scratch my head when, when we do registration and it fills up. I'm always like, I can't believe it. Like why? Right. So yeah, I think
those dirty hugs, Jay.
Dirty
hugs, dirty hugs.
Sweaty, dirty hugs.
and I know we laughed about the beginning comment too about, did he write the word epitome? And I think, Jay, just after, conversing with you on this podcast, you are the epitome of an incredible race director. Just feeling the vibe and feeling like the connection with like the riders. I mean, seriously, you put together such a spectacular. I've never ridden it before, but I would love to in the future. But it just, really that epitome is so true. I know we laughed about
Appreciate it.
You're a good man.
Thanks.
Alrighty, fellas. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
See y'all.
Thanks, guys.